So good morning, and as I said before, I don't think it's the quantity, it's the quality of the people here, both in the panel and in the audience, so I'm very happy to be here. IsraAID, for those of you who don't know, is a humanitarian organization. We're working currently in 19 countries, and actually the stories that changed my life and my perspectives are very much connected to our work. Two pretty incredible stories, I think. One is from the earthquake in Nepal. 2015, almost 10,000 people died. 1 million people lost their lives, lost their houses, sorry. And we had a rescue team ready to go in Israel in 2 hours after the earthquake. But we had a very serious problem because the airport in Nepal wasn't functioning, and the rescue team could only arrive to Nepal 4 days after the earthquake. And we know that the chances of finding survivors more than 72 hours after the disaster are very small. It's a long story, but I used to live in Nepal, so I can speak Nepalese. And I talked to the head of the Nepalese army, and he pointed on one specific building in Kathmandu, where approximately, according to his estimation, there were still 22 people buried underneath. And we started digging people out of the rubble, but we couldn't find any living person. We found 21 dead bodies, and we couldn't find the last person. And we talked to the local people, and they told us that the only person who's still missing is the cleaning lady from the hotel. And they asked if we think there is still a chance of finding her. And we actually said there isn't really a chance, but we thought at least for the family we should do our best and try to dig out the dead body. But I really remember this moment because we used a special life detector, which is actually a very sensitive mic that could recognize heartbeat. And we found a sign that sounds like still a living person. And the commander of our team asked if I could crawl inside the rubble and if I could scream in Nepalese, "Is there anybody in there?" And I screamed something that might sound very weird for you. In Nepalese, it sounds "Yaha koko nuncha." It sounds gibberish, but it actually means, in a very polite way, "Excuse me, is there anybody in there?" It was almost inappropriately too polite for this situation. Long story short, not only that we were able to recognize this person, but she actually made a sound. And this was 6 days after the earthquake, 130 hours that she was lying without food and water into the rubble. And we were able to pull her out, and Toda La'el, Baruch Hashem, she's now back with her 2 children in the villages. And I really remember this moment really shaped me and showed me how within the terrible disasters that we're working in, we have an unbelievable opportunities to build bridges and to save people's lives and to bring this technology that developed in Israel to help people around the world. The second story, shorter, was actually in Greece a year ago, where thousands of Syrian refugees were fleeing the civil war in Syria. And we had a medical team on the beach. So the first people the Syrians saw when they reached the beach in Lesbos in Greece were this group of Israeli doctors and nurses. And they were shocked, you know. We always joke that they probably think they took the wrong boat. You know, they probably think they ended up in Haifa or in Jaffa or God knows where. But I remember one Syrian engineer from Damascus spoke fluent English, and he was so shocked to see Israelis helping them there. And he told me something that I always quote. He said, "My worst enemy became my biggest supporter, and the people who are supposed to protect me back home are chasing me away." And for me personally, again, it was an insight to see how with because of the terrible tragedy, because of this refugee crisis and what happens in the Middle East and in Syria, what a unique opportunity we have to build bridges between people. So that really helped kind of shape my identity.
Before we do that, I want to really thank Ella from the IAC for all their help during this time of So, I am a child of Western family tree. My dad was a child of during the Yom Kippur War, and my parents concentrated during that war. He was in the squadron that had the power to either capture or kill the people. When I was in the army, there was an army band that sang the song with children of Winter 73. There was a song that said, we were sure and we hope that there will be people who are going to be serving the army. It didn't happen. So now I have 2 children. I have 2 daughters, and I have a son. And this is what drives me every day in the morning when I wake up. I was an activist since I was 22. Co-founded this radio. Never submitted a CV in my life. And I, when I was young, I wanted to be a business leader. I realized at 32, because of a few really a big change that happened in my life, I wanted to do that. That the only thing that worries me is that one of my children will pass away before me, and I want to work on changing the world to be a better place for that. I was a co-founder of the Reut, and today I lead an organization called Israel Likud, which works in Israel and wants to be our supply. I lived in Tel for many years, and 2 years ago during Yotam, we basically pushed our documents back to Israel. I had fantastic years here in America, and I love Polizer as well. These are the people that give me hope. I mean, as amazing as they are, I meet many of them every day at work, and these are the people that Israel relies on for. So, we're going to continue.
Good morning. Shaharabany from Pius. Our organization mainly building a new infrastructure for Israel. I don't know how much you know that the Israeli educational system is very diverse. I mean that parents are supposed to choose if they're sending their kids or to religious, or to secular, or to Arab, or to Christian, etc. schools. And we believe that we all can learn together in one school. We can all learn together in one school. But I will talk about it later. The main, for your question, what I inspired, and you went through your childhood, so maybe I will say something about my childhood. So in my 3rd grade, I went with my class to visit David Ben-Gurion house in Tel Aviv. And on my way, and when I came back home, I told my mother it was very nice, but somehow outside there is the flag of Israel, and it was torn and was dirty, and it wasn't a nice flag. And how come at the Prime Minister's house there is such a flag? She said, "What do you want from me?" Like, write to the Prime Minister. So I wrote as a 3rd grade student to Menachem Begin. And 2 weeks after, I got a letter that said, "Thank you very much. We are really sorry about it, and I'm inviting you to change together with the mayor of Tel Aviv the flag at the Prime Minister's house." So actually, I felt that something was bothering me around me and in my society, and by letter or by being activist, I can change it. So since then, I since whenever I remember myself, always I was active in some organizations. I established the first organization when I was 16, and until now I established 14 organizations, some of them still leading in their fields in Israel. And relating to Tzav Pius work and the idea of learning together and the ability to have friends from different spectrum of the Israel society, in my high school and my elementary school, etc., we had a unique path that other schools didn't have, and it was integrated with kids with disabilities, blind and deaf, etc. And for me, it was very natural all my life to grow up with people with disabilities. And it was never an issue. I even have a girlfriend back in my middle school that she was almost blind. So when I realized that other kids, or even myself, I didn't raise with Dati kids, I didn't raise with Arab kids, etc. And for me, it was them. But the people with disability was part of my friends, part of my regular surrounding, in a way. So when Tzav Pius started to get into building the new structure for putting aside the boundaries between groups in Israel and welcoming everybody as a full cart, as a coming to the school, not just that Chiloni will learn more Jewishkeit and Jewish things, or the Dati will suppose just to teach the Chiloni. It was more, we are very balanced about it and trying that everybody is coming to the school, all the families and the kids, with a full cart, and we can share together the knowledge and the richness of Judaism and of the Israeli society.
Me? Okay, thank you. My name is Shmueli. I'm a Brigadier General Reserve in the Israeli Air Force. I flew 6,000 hours in jet airplanes in the last 38 years. And after 30 years as a commander of bases and squadrons in the Israeli Air Force, I retired. And then I thought what I'm going to do in the next 30 years. If the first 30 years were national security, maybe I will go to another 30 years national security. But instead of choosing, national security is standing on three pillars. You have to have a strong army, you have to have a strong economy, but in between you have to have a strong society. So I decided to choose the intermediate, more important pillar is the society of the State of Israel. I was inspired by my grandparents because I think that this panel is all about building reality, how people dream, believe in themselves, like Eli said, and they are doing it. So I was inspired by my grandfathers and grandmothers back in 1920s. They were a kind of series of 40 generations that pray every Friday next year in Jerusalem. And finally, those young people decided, hey, let's not pray, let's do it. And that's what they have done, and they came and they changed the reality and the course of the Jewish nation. So from a very early age, as a young child and as a farmer, I was inspired by this generation. And when I became an Air Force commander, I tried to implement all those things. And I remember one mission, even though I'm not going to tell you about operational missions all over the Middle East, but I remember that we thought in the Air Force how we are going to break through the night flights, which back in those days we couldn't have and we hadn't have the capability. And after many years as a squadron commander, I tried to break through these night flight capabilities. And then at the end, when we got this capability, then was a call from the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Defense that there is a special mission in Lebanon against Hezbollah. And this mission had to be at night. And for this reason, I realized that when I took my four-ship formation, the F-16s, and we went there, and we attacked this target, and it changed the course of the security of the state of Israel in those days, I felt that if you believe in something and you want to change, you have to go for it, you have to mobilize the people, and that's what I learned from the Air Force. And then after I retired, I'm leading today two big organizations that one of them is HaShomer HaChadash, which the basic thing of HaShomer HaChadash is back to the land, back to our story. HaShomer HaChadash is a kind of a new Zionist movement that mobilizes thousands of youth from Israel and from abroad to come and be connected to the land, connected to our heritage, and of course help Arvut Adadit, help each other and be one united society. And the second organization that I lead is called Mitchabrim, Building a Future Together, or in English, Connecting, Building a Future Together. And in 3 weeks, we are going to have a march of 25 people for 2 days marching to Jerusalem. Marching all tribes, sectors of the Israeli societies, secular, Jews, Arabs, ultra-Orthodox, settlers, Ethiopian Jews, everyone, and of course American Jews are going to march for 2 days to Jerusalem in order to say, hey, we are united and we appreciate each other on one hand, and secondly, we are connected to Jerusalem, our capital.
What distance are you going to march?
It depends. If you are capable, you're going to have 18 kilometers per day, but there are some trails that are 4 kilometers and 1.5 kilometers.
Where does it start?
It starts on 19th of October up to 20th of October when we reach Jerusalem and 25,000 people.
I'm going to be there. We're going to move now to Nechama, and then we'll conclude it with some questions. I can tell you when I spoke to Yotam and Nechama separately on the phone, when they told me about what they brought tears to my eyes.
Before I start, I have to say, if you are planning on talking on a panel, do not, I repeat, do not go dancing and singing when you're not tzaruf the night before. This is what happens. Okay, so I'm Nechama, and if I'm trying to analyze my personal narrative, my personal story, it also begins with my grandpa. My grandpa was a Greek soldier that came to Israel to fight during the Second World War. He came back to his home and he found that there was nobody there. His whole family was taken, and he moved to Venezuela. When my mom was 19 years old, she realized it's enough for her, because all of her life they needed to hide the Jewish identity. She was sent to a Catholic school. He believed that the most dangerous thing for him and for us as a family is to discover the fact that we're Jewish. And when she was 19, she felt that conflict was enough, and she's making Aliyah on her own to Israel. So you can understand that me as a kid, I was raised in a very, very Zionist home. The very few moments that I've seen my parents almost tears are on Independence Day at the ceremony in Herzl Mountain. And for us, it was very obvious that Israel is something that is not obvious, and that we have to be very, we are privileged to be able to live in a state that is independent, that there is no question on our identity, on our right to be here, and also on our obligation and commitment to make sure that it will be the same Israel for the generation to come. For me, it was being Zionic for a very survival point of view. And for many years, I did my jobs and my career, went to school, and I was in young movement, and it was very clear for me that I will go my personal way. was living in Tel Aviv at 2011. I had a very good and nice life in Tel Aviv, didn't think nothing's going to change, and if you probably told me 5 years ago that I will live my life in Tel Aviv, I would say you are crazy. But something happened in the summer of 2011 in Israel, and especially in Tel Aviv. The social protest brought so many people outside because we felt something needed to change. And there I was standing with a big sign, thinking I was doing something meaningful. And then I met the people from Ayalim, whom I know from before, but we met again. And they were the only one that talked about not just what needs to be done, but how you can do it day after. And all of a sudden, I found myself packing my stuff, quitting my job, and moving to the Negev. What were I thinking? 5 years later, I understand that I did the very best choice I could. I have the privilege to be the leader of the strongest student movement in Israel. Ayalim was established 15 years ago by two young people that were just released from the army service, and they realized that the Negev and the Galil is the future of Israel, and we need to take care of those areas because those areas has no doubt about whether they should be part of Israel or not. They established one student village in Ayalim in order to expose the student to the experience and the advantages of living in the Negev and the Galil, and by creating a system that has a value base, that has a social activities that every student create and volunteer, and by doing something Zionist, like building their own home, for bad and worse, we actually create communities. We create communities that keep living in the Negev and the Galil after they graduate. Since then, we already have 22 villages from Kiryat Shmona to Ayalim is the village where I live. And we have every year more than 1,000 students that are exposed to this experience. And 15 years later, we have almost 50% of our alumni keep living in the Negev and the Galil. Now, I'm not saying that this will bring the change to the Negev and the Galil, but it's a start. It's a very good start. And it's changing the way people think about the Negev and the Galil. I was sure that by moving to the Negev, I will have to sacrifice something about my life. I realized that I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm already having more. 20 years ago, when Ben-Gurion talked about the Negev, you have to pay a price to go there. Now I can only see the advantages and the young opportunities that the young people in Israel have, specifically in the Negev and Galil, and those areas become to be the paradise for middle class. And this is our goal. I have to say that for me, as a granddaughter for a generation that was not talking Zionist, I feel privileged to be able to take part in a movement that was established by a generation of two grandchildren for Zionist people, and to work shoulder to shoulders with this very important mission that we have.
Good morning. I am the Deputy Minister and MK Ayoob, Deputy Minister of the Prime Minister Netanyahu for the cooperation in our region. I born in Dalit el-Carmel, where Naftali Herz Imber write the hope, the tikva. Now in this place is museum. I invite all of you to visit there. I am born in family that is defense and support and accept many Jews that ran far away from Europe in 1938 till till the independence. My grandfather was only the one from the Druze nation that was member of the GNF. That GNF was the government of the Jewish public in all the world. And my grandfather lose two brothers in this job. One of them, the biggest, they kill him, the Arabian, in the road of Akko, shoot them because my father support the Jewish. And in 1947, they shot another one before the independence of Israel. My father injured in the war of the independence in the Galilee, and he again prepared family. He was alone, and again happening that we was three brothers. We fighting the terror in Lebanon in 1982. I was one of the important officers in the front of this war. I injured in Beirut. I was so sick. When I'm standing back, I lose two brothers again. And this is our little bit history about my family. When I wasn't home, coming to visit us, Prime Minister Shamir, that my grandfather was close to them as the head of the Lehi organization, and he bring me to convince them in the Likud party. I am elected to the Knesset in 1999. I was the deputy of the Speaker of the Knesset, and after that, I become head of different committee in the Knesset. In 2009, I become the deputy minister of the Negev and the Galil, and after that, they sent me back home because I was against the withdrawal from Gaza, because I'm thinking that is bad plant. And after that, everyone know that I was the one that did not do mistake in these steps, and they elected me back to the Knesset and to the government, and I'm now in this position, deputy minister, but I am a minister and do everything around Israel with all the cooperation with our neighbors. I'm starting from the beginning in this job that I believe that to fighting the terror is two directions. We are not give peace for peace. You're never successful in this process. I believe that if we want to fight the terror, we have to find interests. The two interests is it to go to humanitarian steps with our neighbors, and the other direction is it to go to economic project. And we starting with the humanitarian, with the important issue is Save Child Heart. Professor Shechner is here with me, that we bring the children from all our neighbors to Israel, thousands of children. We save their hearts in Wolfson, in Tel Aviv, and we bring also different injuries from the side of the humanitarian issue to our hospitals from the border in Syria and everywhere, because this is the face of Israel. We want to change the face of Israel, and also we began last week to bring different children from all our neighbors to our hospitals. I believe that this is one of the important issues to make and to cooperate with our neighbors, and this is change the PR, they have changed the face of Israel. On the other hand, I'm only the one. Before me in this position was Shimon Peres and Tzipi Livni and Silvan Shalom. They are not successful to move to any direction, but in any project, because they are not know the mentality. They are not know how to connect to this leadership. I met every day leadership, discreet, down the radar, up the radar, and I'm very happy that I'm successful to move with different projects that important that all the Israeli and the Jewish in the world know about that, because this is important for our PR. We're starting now to bring the water from Eilat. We're going to tender next month. We elected 7 companies to bring water from Eilat to the Dead Sea, to save the Dead Sea. 200 kilometers we're going to bring water. And from this project, to give a solution of water to our neighbors. Because it's important for us, the Jordanian, that fighting ISIS and fighting our enemy, and they're looking about Israel as an important state and important neighbors. So we're going to find solution to the water near Aqaba. We're going to make and prepare their big factory of salinization water, and we give from this solution also to the Palestinian to water. And near Sdom, we're going to prepare big factory of energy. 200 kilometers, U.S. supporting that. All the European Union support this project. This is the big project that in the Middle East now, that I move with that. The other things that we successful after long years, we starting with 3 industrial parks with our neighbors, 2 in the Palestinian Authority, and the other is the gateway with the Jordanian. Near Jericho, we're going to make big center of economy for the Palestinian, but they are not only the Palestinian. From this center, big center of business, we're going to open the borders to the Arabian area. We're going to cooperate. I think next year they're going to be a new process with our neighbors, with the Saudi and Arabian coalition, I think. And we need to prepare all the area to become more economic, more interest between us and our neighbors. We're not stop near the Palestinian issue, because this is something that not relevant. But we are not care. We move to cooperate with our neighbors, and we're going also with big industrial park near Jenin, with the Turkish in Jericho. The Japanese support the project, and in Jenin, the Turkish supporting it. And they both going to send big factories to be in these industrial parks. And we open also to make the economic Jordanian economic better. We're going also to open the border to accept foreign workers to our marketing. And this is one only example for what we cooperating to make all the area better and not stop and not do anything.
Thank you very much. We're going to talk about Save the Child's Heart in the next round of questions. We want to learn more about this activity, which is very important and inspiring as well. I want to ask, we're not going to ask specific questions to specific panelists, so let's start with Ram. If if you can tell us about one of your activities that excites you the most, one of the things that you're leading, and through that also tell us about one leadership lesson you learned through these activities.
I think that the most relevant is what we do now in HaShomer. We call it HaShomer Pioneering Experience. This is a project that you can implement either if you have a youth from America or from Israel. We bring for a week a young generation from America and from Israel. And in this week, like it was back in the kibbutz time, they work in the field half day. Another half day they study Judaism, Zionism, and so on. And then they sleep around the fire and cook together. And this is for a week. This year we succeeded. We only started this year. We succeeded to bring 2,500 youth from America in the age of 16 up to 24. And we had to mobilize and bring 30,000 Israelis youth to experience this kind of activity that you feel that you're doing something important. The main issue that they do, they treat the old olive trees that are 1,000 years old back in the Genis mountains, and they treat them. So I, as a farmer, and I, as someone that raise olive trees and make olive oil, those trees wait there for 1,000 years, so someone will come and take care of them, and in 2 weeks we're going to have the harvesting season. And this kind of olive oil, that I have a sample here, this kind of olive oil, those are used from America and from Israel, working on the fields, on the JNF forest, and bring some new connection of the use of Israel. So this is a project that I highly recommend for Israelis who lives here and can't go back home, so you can send your kids, or of course my kids, to go there for 1 week, 1 week like Gadna, 1 week like being the kibbutz, and this is what we are doing. The main lesson that I have, even though I was a leader in the Air Force and I have some experience, is that today, nowadays, for the young generation, they don't go after a leadership that is not modest. People that are courageous enough, in Hebrew it's called Oz v'Anava. We have here Professor Goldin, whose son was killed in action during the protective age 2 years ago. And you know what was written on his belt, or the belt of his weapon when he was killed? He saw the letters Oz v'Anava. Today, the young generation will not follow leaders that are talking high words and don't do it. They follow courageous people. And I got a lesson from these young officers, Adar Golding, who was killed in action. And this kind of Oz v'Anava, this is the kind of leadership that people go after. And I know Ayalim personally, and this is how young people go after Ayalim leaders. And I know a little bit about Tzav, Pius, and IsraAID. And I think that this is the lesson for me. I came from the Air Force. I have experience in leadership and all those things which are important. But the new generation, they look for Oz and Anava. You have to be courageous leader, but you have to be modest.
Thank you. Yotam, Israel is doing amazing humanitarian work around the world, and I wanted to talk about what really attracts you most to this kind of activities, and maybe give us some examples of what you do. And you're a young leader, but maybe something, leadership lesson you learned through these activities.
So it's actually connected to the previous question. So my grandparents are Holocaust survivors from Hungary, and as a grandson for Holocaust survivors, I'm sure many knows that we always said that we will never go back to Germany. And here in the last year, again, in a decision that we could criticize or not, the German government took 1.1 million refugees. As lucky for us, we are not dealing with the big political question, but we are dealing with the humanitarian question. And the first time I went to Germany about a year ago was to work together with the Germans and to help the refugees in Europe integrate into Germany. And I thought it's an interesting twist of history. 70 years after the Holocaust, Jews are coming to work with the Germans to help refugees who are mostly Muslim. And in fact, here in the audience, we have Samuel, who is our country director from Berlin, who speaks both Arabic and German and leading our efforts there. So I think, we all know, or maybe a lot of us heard about the emergency mission. But for me in Israel, this is maybe the most important mission now, how we change people's perspective and how we help both the refugees change the way they feel about Israelis and Jews. Because for most of them, this is the first time they're meeting a Jewish person. And they were pretty surprised to see that we don't have horns. But also from the other side, for the Germans, and we work very closely with the Jewish community, both in Germany and in the U.S. I think it's very important to try to build bridge, and like Ayoob was mentioning, within the turmoil that's going on in the Middle East, we need to look for friends. And we need to see how, and I think what Save a Child's Heart is doing is also a great example of how again, we can use crises as opportunities to build friendship and connections. And one more person that we have here is Hillel, who is a Jewish student here from GW University, George Washington University, and he came with a group of American Jewish fellows to help us help the refugees. So again, I find out how this crisis and how this humanitarian situation is an opportunity to also build bridge between the U.S. and Israel. So for me, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for how to use this to build bridge.
Thank you. Eli, if you can talk a little bit about Israel through your eyes and Tzav Pius, through the perspective of Tzav Pius, what worries you and what keeps you hopeful?
Through the eyes of Tzav Pius. First, I agree with Ram. Definitely, we have great people and leaders and young people in Israel that want to change, want to be active, and they're bringing a lot of hope in what we are doing. I see how my nephews are involved in all kind of activities, and now the scouts and Mifalot. I'm working with Mifalot Chevra V'Chinuch. It's an organization that's working with youth at risk around Israel, etc. It's such a great movement of people that are doing and want to change their society for better. My perspective about the Israel society, that we are so much vibrant that everybody know, and we are so much advanced in so many things. But the one problem is that we don't know it in Israel. We need kind of hasbara for Israelis to see the goodness and the good activities that we have inside Israel. And that's what's worried me. But the hope, and if I will go back to the eyes of Tzav Pius, it's when I'm seeing, after the fear of families that sending their kids, religious or secular families, to join school, and each one is fearless about as they're going to do kfiya datit, are going to be chozrim b'tshuva or yotze b'shela, etc. And after that, so the next year, we, instead of having just a second grade, like a small class, we have 2 classes of second grade and 2 or 3 classes of first grade, just because people relocate to the area of this school because more and more families want to join this movement. So when you're doing the right things, and it's very hard to get the early adopter and to convince people to join you, but once you're doing the right thing, when you're giving a real hope, once you are working very hard and show the real results of what you're visioning, families are coming. Families are stepping in and sending their kids and wants to participate after school programs, because now when in the classroom they're talking about Sidur suddenly, so the kibbutzim around Eliakim that's sending their kids to Eliakim, our joint school in Eliakim, they're saying, we don't know what's Sidur. So we are doing a bet midrash for the parents at the kibbutzim. And we are doing, and we are planning together how we are going to do a birthday party for the kids that both sides will feel very natural and very welcoming this. So this is a great hope, because once you're putting together, and that's what's the main tool, that's the main thing that Tzav Pius is doing. We are building a new infrastructure for the education system in Israel. A new kind of school, a new kind of curriculum, training the teachers, training the principals, working with the parents, etc. Once you're putting the right infrastructure with a great hope and a lot of investment, the society is stepping in. The society is welcoming it and wants to adopt it. And it's we are now more than 40 schools. We are each year with opening around between 4 to 6 new schools in Israel, and it's vibrant and it's really great.
Thank you. Ayoob, if you can tell us about Save a Child's Heart. That's the first part of the question, and the other is, you have many years of leadership. Can you tell us of one leadership lesson you learned?
The important things that I learning by the time, how we could save our security as Israel, and on the other hand, to found friends in the Middle East. And you couldn't find friends if you are not do something humanitarian or something economic. So in the side of the humanitarian, the important thing that in it is consensus, I think, is the children. Children is the children. And of course, beside me here, the organization of Save Heart of Children, they beginning, I support that very much from my ministry. We beginning to bring children at the beginning, few children, and after that beginning to become more and more. We save thousands of children from Afghanistan till the Gulf States, Gaza, the north of Africa, from everywhere, Kurdish, Yazid. If you come into the center in Folsom, all the time you could find the center fully with different children that they come in. Sometimes they come in with no neighbor, and they come in with no mother and no father. And one example, one child come from Afghanistan alone. Child, how old is alone? 8 years, right? 8 years? 1 year and 3 months. We bring him to Israel, and women from here, from United States, heard about that, and he, as a volunteer, is a nurse, coming from here, because no one want to be from Israel beside him, and he come and I says, I want to be the voluntary, and he's staying a few months near this child till they become healthy. And,
you want to take the mic, maybe?
Take it.
Okay. want to introduce yourself for a minute so they know?
Yeah, you can use this thing. Let's see if it works.
I'm not speaking to a box. Okay, I'm Professor Ari Schachner, the founder of Cardiovascular Department at Wilson Medical Center and co-founder of Save a Child's Heart 20 years ago. We operated more than 4,200 children from 54 nations, developing countries. It means that we have partners, not looking at them downwards, just in the height of the eyes. Like you said, Ram, Anavut. And we are communicating. Just to give you what Ayoob Kara says, the minister, who is behind us in every action, okay? And he's taking part of building the International Children's Hospital that started already 3 weeks ago, and it will become a center of competence, a center of education. You don't only operate on the children from these developing countries, but you educate their staff so that they can do it by themselves. You see here the cooperation. And in this, bringing this child from Afghanistan, the first one, from Kabul, can you understand what? There was a chain of cooperation. We cooperated with the Turkish government, we cooperated with Los Angeles, a woman she was born in Persia, in Iran. So in Iran, woman brought an Afghan child. She lives in Los Angeles, in San Diego. She lives in San Diego, and she went to meet him in Istanbul, but there was a coup in Istanbul, right? So they wanted to stop it. But our executive director made it possible to get the plane to come to Istanbul. She met the father and the child. He was brought, operated, and you cannot believe what of this connection started to roll on. So all of a sudden, a diamond billionaire who was from the same area that the child was brought, he's connecting to Save a Child's Heart, and that's going on like that, starting a cooperation. I say it's medicine as a currency for peace. That's what we do. That's what we intend to do in the future. And thank you for listening. And thank you, Kara, the Minister for Cooperation, because we are blood brothers. We are blood brothers. Reuel, or Yitro, is their prophet, and he was the father-in-law of Moses. And Moses was from the tribe of Levi. So he's a Levi, I'm a Levi. My ancestors are the Shlah, the Holy Shlah, one of the Lamed Vav Tzadikim. It goes from father to son, this whole tradition. His grave is in Tiberias. And when I visit there, it's unbelievable how many people are standing there asking for better life.
But remember, Professor Schachner, that Yitro was the eyes of Moses.
He was the eyes. He was called also Reuel. Reuel means that he is the friend of the God.
I want to continue 2 words.
Thank you.
Very briefly, because we're going to get the lady.
Near our borders also. Near our borders, like Save Heart of Children, we do a lot for the Druze nation that close to the border. I'm trying in this trip in U.S. to fund supporting for them. And I met different organizations and different leadership. We need to bring and support with different issues, humanitarian issue, this area. Because we are not part in this conflict, we could not officially, as a state, to support them. But we take a decision to support them in the humanitarian steps. So, because that we need, of course, voluntary and organization and of course companies to become and be part in this supporting, because they are also fighting ISIS, fighting al-Nusra, and fighting different enemy of Israel. And we do a lot for also to bring him to here, to our hospitals, to give him. There are some of them sick. They are in all the villages. They are not few years. They are not going outside the villages because Nasra and ISIS killed them, and we trying to find solution. And we looking about supporting. This is very expensive, but I'm going to this process. The US promised me to support also a new project for them.
Thank you very much. I wanted to get to you now as a young leader. Your movement meets many of our upcoming leaders at their student phase, and we wanted to hear of what keeps you hopeful about Israel through the eyes of your
Like you said, I meet many, many young students in Ayalim, and usually it's like we see them as the next leadership of Israel. So for us, we meet every day, and I'm not talking just about me, I'm talking about all Ayalim's leadership. We're facing every day the good Israel, the face of Eretz Israel Yafa. So for us, it's very easy to answer the question why doing what we do. We have the people that motivated us because we see the opportunities and we see the next generation. You talked about Yom Kippur. I think it's not surprising why after Yom Kippur, after the generation of our parents that just wanted us to live our life calm and relaxed and with no worries, it became that there are so many Zionist movement like Ayalim, like HaShomer, HaChadash, like our movement, because I think the young people in Israel, and not just in Israel, are looking for meaning, something that will make a difference. And for our Simchatenu, we're very glad to see that when time comes, there are many, many young people that will do what it takes. I'm talking about, for example, during the Tzuk Eitan operation, we were an association that was mostly women. All the men were called or volunteered to the army. I have to say it has a lot of advantages to keep only a female leadership. But we saw that eventually with the young people in Israel, they do what they need. And they're looking forward to join a platform that will give their action meaningful results. And I think this is something that for me as an individual, but also as a leader, always motivate me to know that we have a commitment. We have a commitment, and not just a personal commitment. We have many, many partners to do that. And
we wanted to leave a few moments for questions, so maybe we'll continue for 5 more minutes. Now, maybe just to conclude the panelist remarks, we can say a few words about how can we work together, the American Jewish community, the Israeli American community, and how can we connect to these kind of activities? How do you see this? What needs to be created to be a serious collaboration?
I think that the key words is mutual responsibility. I think that each one of us, either you live here or in Israel, we are responsible for the state of Israel and the Jewish nation. Those are not big words. My grandfather taught me a sentence that said, if you can, it is your duty to do it. So each one of us have to ask himself a question. Can I do something more for the state of Israel? So yes, I have to come and do it. And don't say that there is not enough things in Israel and not enough places. I would have come, but I can't. There is no my profession. No, you just come and create reality. There are a lot of young people in Israel, and I got a lot of hope from this panel, even though this is, like Nechama said before, I always meet those people. So I'm highly optimistic. And the key issue is mutual responsibility, that all of us will feel responsible for the state of Israel, because the state of Israel is our future. This is the future of our kids, either you live on this side of the ocean or the other side of the ocean. And this is why I am involved as much as I can from the early morning, and you can, I have here in the audience my eldest son, Eyal, that is sitting there. He just retired from 7 years as a commander in the Navy, and his girlfriend, she is a teacher in Israel, and they build new reality in Israel, the young generation. So mutual responsibility, if you can, it is your duty to do it.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That was quick. You know, I've spent a bunch of time in Israel, and I'm also on the board. I'm actually an executive member of the FIDF, Friends of the Israel Defense Forces. And spending time there, the one thing that frightens me more than anything, more than the Arabs, believe it or not, and ISIS and all these other crazy people, Hezbollah, Hamas, are the religious factions and the lack of tolerance and respect for each other amongst Jewish people. Let's forget about the Arabs for a second, the Arabs. Let's not even consider the Druze. Let's talk about just the Jews. The religious people, especially the Haredim, I mean, the things that, to me, it's just outrageous that they don't respect you. And they don't respect people who are secular, who are not religious. And that's a big problem. My fear is what would happen from within, especially how they're reproducing. They're going to be a majority of the population. And I know I speak to a lot of mainstream Israelis who are relatives of mine and friends of mine, and they tell me that their classrooms for their 9-year-old kids have 30 and 35 students, and theirs have 20 in the yeshiva, and they don't serve in the army. They don't do anything to support. All they do is drain the economy economically. Taxes are going up. There's a big separation between the haves and the have-nots.
No, not update. The ultra-Orthodox are going through a dramatic change.
Thank God.
They are partners. We have to treat them like partners. They are serving in they start serving in the army. They start involving in the workforce. There is a huge change. You are welcome, and I will take you to some of those activities. You will be highly optimistic.
You know what? I'll be there in 3 weeks.
Okay. So you come to march with me to Jerusalem, and then we go to Ultra-Orthodox.
I'll be there on the 25th.
Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Yohanan Jean Bougerie. I'm the president of the Tutsim Zionist Council. And I heard Dr. Saying something about the Moses' father-in-law. So this is very important for me because I am a Tutsi, I'm Tutsim, and as you know, Israel, as it is described as a promised land, borders come from the Nile up to the Euphrates. So we consider ourselves as living in Israel. So it is interesting that now we have Prime Minister Netanyahu coming to us and visiting us around. And I am born in Burundi. Burundi. But it is, we are the same people. Burundi, Rwanda, Congo, Tanzania. We are all, we are the Jews of Africa as you were the Jews of Europe living in Poland, in Germany, in France.
What is the question?
The question is, are you ready to understand that we are moving for the setting up again Jewish nation in Africa, inside Africa? Do you know that we are moving to this possibility, maybe?
Okay. I want to say a few words. You know, the Prime Minister Netanyahu visit Africa after a long time. And because I'm closing to them as the Prime Minister, he told us, absolutely, to do everything to cooperate with different states in Africa, because this is the new interest of Israel. Because Africa is also voting in UN like any other states. And it's a long time Africa was outside from Israel. It was a big mistake. And we're going to do different actions. One of them is also to find solution for what you speak about.
Thank you.